This is the city, Los Angeles, California. 465 square miles of constantly interfacing humanity, representing every race, color, creed, and persuasion. But God, no matter how he is worshipped, chose in his infinite wisdom to deposit here in the cultural nexus of the Pacific Rim. Almost 4 million people work and play here, and like any other place, anywhere, there are those who have it and those who want it. Those who have it enjoy it, no matter how they got it. Those who want it can get it by attempting to better themselves in a sympathetic community populated by decent citizens cheering them on. Or they can try to take it the easy way. Because even in the City of Angels, from time to time, some halos slip. That's where I come in, doing my job to the best of my ability on a daily basis. I work here. I carry a badge.
Name a more iconic intro than that. I mean, it's such a great welcome from Sergeant Joe Friday telling us about Los Angeles and how great it is. Anyway, welcome to FAVEFILM Podcast, a show about great movies and what makes them so wonderful. I'm Leisha.
I'm Richard, and we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
With our first regular episode in a while.
Our first deep dive into a film that we love, and we're kind of coming full circle today. Because if you have listened to previous episodes, you'll know that when we talk about a film and we talk about the facts behind a film, we use a little soundbite that, you know, is from this film.
Just the facts, ma'am.
And so if you recognize that, you'll recognize that today's movie that we're talking about is the 1987 buddy cop comedy, Dragnet.
Yay.
Yay! It is based on a television series of the same name, and it's... I'm going to use a lot of superlatives talking about this movie. I love this movie. It is one of the... Hello! It is one of the best 80s comedies.
I agree.
It is one of the best buddy comedies.
Again, I agree.
And it never fails to just make me laugh.
Yeah.
I love... You talk about comfort blanket movies.
Yeah.
We've talked about them on the podcast before. This is one for me.
Right.
I always, if I'm feeling down, I can put this movie on. I will smile. I will laugh. I will enjoy it.
It makes you feel better.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, when do you think you remember seeing this for the first time? Because in the UK, I can imagine this probably wasn't shown a lot, or was it? I don't know.
So, yeah, I mean, I remember, let me see. So I don't remember original Dragnet. I don't remember the TV series. I'm going to say I probably saw this for the first time on video.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing it in the theater. And I just remember seeing it for the first time, and... You know what? I thought it was good. I didn't think it was amazing at the time. I think as time has gone on and I've watched it over and over, I realized just how... I mean, it's a silly movie, but it works.
Of course.
It works in a way that it just... You're right. It just makes you laugh out loud. There's not a lot of comedies that make me laugh out loud, but this is definitely one of them. But yeah, so I think the first time I saw it was on video, and then probably bought a copy. I really can't remember, but I have seen it many times.
Yeah, so this was, again, as many of the films that we talk about on this show, that especially ones that came out in the 80s, this was one of the films that my parents rented from the video store and copied onto a tape with their video camera. I know, pirates, we didn't sell it, so don't come after me.
Right.
But they had a copy of this, and we watched it over and over again. It's so funny. Probably too young to watch it, to be honest, when we saw it, because let's see, this was 87. I would have been 8 at the time.
Yeah.
Which is like,
there's a few,
there's tits in it and stuff. So it's kind of like, there's some things that went over my head at the time that later on I was like, oh.
Yeah, okay.
But especially the stuff with like, you know, Jerry Caesar and the bait mates and all that stuff. But,
well, I guess actually, you know what? We should probably say that we are going to spoil the hell out of this film, and
we're going to talk about the whole thing.
If you haven't seen it, then please go ahead and track it down and watch it before you listen to the episode.
Absolutely, you can buy this digitally. We do have a digital copy now, so I no longer have to watch it on an old VHS tape. So that's good. But if I were to think about how many times I've seen this movie, if I were to try and come up with a number. Thinking about all the times I've seen it, as a child and as an adult, I'd probably say it's been about 40 times.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I really do love this movie.
Yeah.
And the reason is, first of all, it's nonstop jokes.
Yeah.
I feel like this movie has just as many jokes as like an airplane movie.
I agree, because there is a lot. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the background and stuff, just like there is in Airplane or Naked Gun or something like that.
Yeah, but it's really clever because obviously with something like the Naked Gun or Airplane, obviously there's goofy stuff happening that's like not based in reality.
Right.
Frank Drebin wearing a giant condom is not really happening in real life. However, some of the comedy, in this movie, while it does have a silly plot in a way, it's largely based in a real life setting. And what makes it great is that a character like Joe Friday, Dan Aykroyd's phenomenal performance, a character like Joe Friday has no idea how much of a square he is.
Right.
So that allows him to play the straight man and him to go about his business just like any other day and not do things for laughs, but it allows us to laugh at how silly he is and how much of a square he is.
Right.
So, and then Tom Hanks, I mean, forget it.
Well, it's the same, it's the same double act that we've had for centuries, right? I mean, that comedy, it works.
Centuries. Movies haven't been around for centuries.
Well, no. I'm not talking about movies, but I'm talking about comics in general.
Yeah, it's that odd couple dynamic.
Comedy duos. You have the straight man, and then you have the the wacky, one, and so that works just great here.
Can we talk about Tom Hanks for a minute? Tom Hanks. I'm gonna give you a controversial, hot take.
Okay.
Tom Hanks deserves an Oscar for this movie. I said it. And here's why. Okay, so he wins Oscars for Philadelphia. Philadelphia, I get. Forrest Gump, he's playing a completely different character. He's almost playing it's almost like a play. It's almost like a character that's fully written and developed.
Right.
And, everything down to what he wears and the way he talks and everything, it's all decided in a way. Now, I'm not saying that Tom Hanks didn't bring something to that character, because he did. Mm-hmm. In this movie, it is so natural. It's almost like Pep Streebeck is an extension of Tom Hanks himself. And that's
I would love to interview Tom Hanks and ask him about that.
I would love to just ask him about Dragnet, because nobody asks him about Dragnet.
That's true. Nobody does ask him about Dragnet.
Because this movie, in as much as I love it and as much as it's kind of a cult comedy favorite, I'm sure a lot of people grew up like me watching it on HBO or the movie channels. It was on all the time.
Yeah.
And that's why I've seen it 40 times.
Yeah.
But I would love to ask him about this. It's kind of, I feel like it's a little bit largely forgotten as an 80s comedy versus something like a Ghostbusters or Ferris Bueller. I feel like it doesn't get the attention. But what I've noticed is when people talk about movies, on podcasts and things, they quote this movie all the time. They talk about City of Crime and they talk about all this stuff. And I'm like, people know this movie.
Yeah,
they just don't talk about it. So
I mean, when we get into the clips later, I mean, there are things that we say all the time.
I quote this movie on a regular basis. My sisters and I will just, if we want to make each other laugh, we'll just say pseudohalogenic compound cyanogen. And we'll just quote this movie. And I'm Emil Muzz and I'm a pagan. We'll get to all these great moments in this, but it's just nonstop, funny. The third act goes a little bit into the kind of romantic subplot, and it's like, but for the most part... Yeah,
but it's funny because you have the payoff at the end.
Yes,
that's just all set up for that one payoff right at the end.
Yeah, so there's definitely, and there's character growth for Joe Friday because of that subplot. So, all right, so let's dig in. Let's cue that iconic sting that opens all of the fact sections of all of our podcasts now.
Just the facts. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts, ma'am.
Okay, you don't have to remix it.
Well, just thought I'd give it a little bit extra for this episode.
All right, so Dragnet was released on June 26, 1987. So It was a summer movie. It came out in the same week as Mel Brooks' Spaceballs.
Oh, okay.
And Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, interestingly enough, Tom Hanks turned down a role in Spaceballs to be in Dragnet.
Ah.
So, it's kind of full circle. And, some of the things that I was reading online was like, Dragnet ended up doing better financially than either of those two movies in opening weekend.
Oh, wow.
But some people are saying, like, well, Spaceballs and Full Metal Jacket are more enduring. And I'm like, okay, fine.
Well,
I get it. But...
Well, I mean, Full Metal Jacket's completely different. Spaceballs it's still a comedy, but yeah, I think it's different. I think Dragnet and Spaceballs both endure, but in different ways.
Yeah. I agree. And so speaking of financial success, it made $66 million in worldwide box office on a $20 million budget.
Okay.
And I'm assuming all $20 million of that was on the car chases because they looked very expensive. So Dragnet was written by Dan Aykroyd and Alan Zweibel, who worked together on Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, Dan Aykroyd had already played Friday once in a Dragnet parody on SNL in 1976.
Ah, I didn't know that.
So he was already, getting those Jack Webb juices going to play Joe Friday. So I think he had a real appreciation for Dragnet and Jack Webb, and you can tell in the role he really studied him. This was directed by Tom Mankiewicz, who mostly was a writer more than a director, because he wrote on tons of Bond movies.
Yeah.
Like Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker and a couple others.
And Diamonds Are Forever, yeah.
But he only directed one other major motion picture, and that was a film called Delirious with John Candy.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't remember at all. No, and I thought I knew John Candy's filmography pretty well. I can remember the VHS case.
The cover to it, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't remember actually what the movie was about. Maybe I need to revisit it. So, this has a 50% Rotten Tomatoes score.
Okay.
Which is disgusting. Disgusting.
Yeah, but I'm always a little bit wary of when they do Rotten Tomatoes scoring for old movies. I mean... what do they do? Yeah, you telling me that somebody goes back and combs every word of every review that's been written? Come on.
No, but I'll tell you what. I feel like this movie holds up better than most 80s movies that came out at the time. Not as problematic. There's some things that are like, yeah, it's very 80s and of its time, but it's I think the comedy holds up really well to me. So in casting notes, Dan Aykroyd, unsurprisingly, originally wanted Jim Belushi to play Pep Streebeck.
Oh,
and they would go on to be in Blues Brothers 2000 together, and obviously Jim Belushi, the John Belushi tie.
Yeah.
Albert Brooks was offered the role of Pep Streebeck.
Oh, really?
But he turned it down, obviously. Tom Hanks ended up getting it, but he also was offered another Tom Hanks role and turned it down. So he turned down 2 Tom Hanks roles. He turned down the role of Josh Baskins in Big.
Oh, okay.
I could not imagine Albert Brooks playing adult in Big.
And
That's
also,
weird
how
to
old
me.
was Albert Brooks at that point? Would he have been a little bit old for Pep? Because isn't Pep supposed to be the young hotshot? I mean, I don't even know how old Tom Hanks was at the time, but
Tom Hanks would have been like in his late 20s, early 30s, maybe. But
well, I guess Joe wasn't that much older, but because he was so square, he appeared to be older.
yeah, I don't think Dan Aykroyd is that much older than Tom Hanks.
No,
He's
I'm
probably...
talking about the character.
No, I mean, but I'm just saying, yeah, you're right. Dan Aykroyd brings a kind of stern agedness to the role.
Yeah, he seems super old.
But look, perfectly cast. I don't think you could have asked for anybody better than Tom Hanks. But,
I agree.
So, breaking down the cast, we talk about Dan Aykroyd, emulating the original Joe Friday character from the TV series played by Jack Webb, who in the film is Joe Friday's uncle and namesake. So he's got a picture of him on his desk. Mm-hmm. So you can see Jack Webb there on his desk. And it's a flawless performance. He captures every mannerism, every the way he would talk speedily through California section code, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And as I said, we get to laugh at him playing the straight man, and just some of the things he said. He's just so clean and straight laced and wholesome.
Yeah.
Even when he's that scene where he's talking to those kids that are trying to get smokes off of him, be smart, don't start, and stay in school. And I'm like, oh my God, he's like a prefect.
Yeah.
He's like class president. He's like the hall monitor.
Yeah, right.
But it builds this great dynamic between him and Tom Hanks as this odd couple team, and Tom Hanks as Pep Streebeck. I mean, again, Oscar worthy to me. That's what I'm going to say. And we'll play a clip now that kind of demonstrates when they first meet in the movie.
Yeah.
And what I love is just that you get that dynamic straight away. You get that this is going to be a relationship where they're going to butt heads, and we're going to have a great time watching it. So let's listen.
So-called pagan robberies, a pattern of serial crimes which had occurred throughout the city. They'd seemed merely irritating at first, but were quickly gaining notoriety through their growing frequency and naked brazenness. I was to contact my new partner at the central receiving lot. A less experienced peace officer might have been concerned he was getting pot luck, but I knew that any detective the department had to offer me was automatically worthy of my respect.
Say, Sergeant Friday?
Who wants to know?
I'm Pep Streebeck. I'm your new partner.
Not looking like that, you aren't, mister.
Oh, really? What's that supposed to mean?
It means I don't care what undercover rock you crawled out from. There's a dress code for detectives in robbery homicide. Section 3-605, .10, .20, .22, .24, .26, .50, .70, .80. It specifies clean shirt, short hair, tie, pressed trousers, sports jacket or suit, and leather shoes, preferably with a high shine on them. 9:05 a.m. Streebeck's unauthorized outfit and facial growth were history, and for the first time in 12 years, I rolled into traffic with a new partner at my side.
What you don't see hearing that clip is that Pep Streebeck gives a little jerk-off motion when he gets into the car when Joe Friday's not looking. And
so he's already feels like he's got the measure of him.
Yeah, and I love the section .20, .22, just ridiculous. But yeah, the dynamic just continues, and that will feed into a lot of our magic moments to come, the kind of back and forth and the way that they work together. But what's great is that obviously Joe Friday's got the smarts of being all the department, all the charges, all the, different things. And he's keeping everything in line, but Streebeck's got the street smarts.
Right.
So he's kind of he's worked in, he's worked undercover and narcotics.
Yeah.
And so he kind of can, flex himself a little bit and be a little bit more endearing to people and, keep Friday from kind of going overboard with his, mannerisms and his quoting of procedure. So it makes for a really great comedy team. So the main villain of the film is Reverend Jonathan Worley, played by Captain Von Trapp himself, Christopher Plummer.
Yeah.
And he's just so deliciously sleazy and over the top.
He is. You know that he relished that role. You know he did.
Well, he probably liked making it more than he did Sound of Music. That's for sure. He hated Sound of Music, but I love that he's kind of got that televangelist kind of, hello child, welcome to the moral advance movement of. He's just really slick.
Yeah.
And underneath there's something really dastardly going on, and you figure that out later on. And I particularly love his scenes with Dabney Coleman. Because, Dabney Coleman, we'll talk about him next. He's next on our cast list.
Yeah.
He's love his performance as Jerry Caesar.
Yeah, he's great in everything.
He's a porn magnate.
Yeah.
He's a Hugh Hefner, archetype. And I just he gave himself a lisp.
Yeah.
He didn't have to do that. He's kind of got this southern accent. Gentile, why don't you get my papers back on the stand where they belong, kind of thing.
Well, we're going to hear him a little bit later, yeah.
And he's wearing the robes, ridiculous.
Completely in the role, 100%.
So you've got this kind of dichotomy of villains. You've got, Jerry Caesar, who's kind of in on this deal, really in it for the money. And, Jonathan Worley, who's portraying this clean-cut image. Somehow they have to work together as, acolytes in this plot. And it's just Dabney Coleman's unabashedly, sleazy. And he's kind of coming from 9 to 5 and some other roles he's played. He's really good at kind of playing that sleazy character. He passed away earlier this year.
Yeah, he did.
Just a great character actor. Just really always brought something kind of funny and extra to every movie he's in, and this is no exception. And we'll talk about him later in Magic Moments, because undoubtedly he will appear. Alexandra Paul plays the Virgin Connie Swale. She's fine. So
I mean, she does it, to be fair, she doesn't really have a lot.
No, they don't give her a lot to do. Nah. She's kind of got this damsel in distress thing going on, but this really, really blushy Joe kind of voice. And she's just so super sweet and innocent. And that's part of the whole, she's still a virgin, Connie Swale kind of thing. And just kind of this pure person. And again, there's not much dimension to her character at all. No,
but I mean, there doesn't really need to be.
No, and the only other thing I know Alexandra Paul from was Baywatch.
Oh, she
was in Baywatch.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So hopefully she got more to do in Baywatch, but she's okay.
Okay.
She's inoffensive.
Okay.
She's fine. Harry Morgan appears in this movie. He was originally the character of Ganon on Dragnet on the TV series, so they brought him back. He was originally only going to be in one scene, but they expanded his character and made him the captain of the police force, and rightfully so. I think
he's great. He's another one of those character actors that pops up in stuff, and you like, oh man, where have I seen him before? Because he's been in 1,000,001 things.
And what's great is he's playing the original character from the TV series, and up against Joe Friday, and he's already dealt with a Friday in his past. Yeah, so now he's dealing with another one. I think he's just tired of it. He's just haggard, just a little bit he just wants to go to bed. I got a feeling he wants to go home to his wife and watch Wheel of Fortune and go to bed.
See, that's a really good thing to see, because they could have made this movie and they could have just done a remake.
Yeah.
But the fact that they put these little connections in here,
They basically made it an extension of the original TV series.
It's great.
It flows.
See, they don't
really...
do that these days. They just shovel any old shit out. And,
they'll recast Batman 500-600 times.
Yeah.
So
it's nice that those little nods are in there.
Yeah. Jack O'Halloran plays Emil Muzz. So he's part of the baddie, the pagans. He's great.
Muzz Emil.
Muzz Emil. Emil Muzz. I've been sick. He's great. I mean, just the interrogation scene, where Pep Streebeck slams his balls into drawer. And, I mean, you don't see it. You hear it. You just hear him screaming, and then he's singing like Beverly Sills, apparently. So, see, this movie is just joke on joke on joke. It's just great. Elizabeth Ashley plays the police commissioner.
The commissioner, that's right.
So Commissioner Kirkpatrick. Mm-hmm. And Elizabeth Ashley was on a TV show called Evening Shade with Burt Reynolds.
Oh my gosh.
In the 90s, yeah.
I haven't thought about that show I don't think I ever saw it, but man, I remember it.
Yeah, she's great. She's just kind of she's a double agent kind of, because she's the police commissioner, but she's also in the pocket of Reverend Jonathan Burley. So she does give Friday a really hard time. And those scenes are really a joy to watch, because she's just, she's got his balls in her hand, just squeezing them. She loves it. But she's great. And another standout member of the cast to round out kind of the cast. There's many, many people in the cast, obviously.
Yeah.
But we're kind of hitting the high players.
Yeah.
Kathleen Freeman as Enid Borden, the landlady. This is a 2-minute scene. She doesn't appear in the rest of the movie at all.
But it's one of the highlights.
This is one of the most memorable scenes, just because of how absolutely filthy she is. And how she's just really giving it to Friday. And that this shows that kind of the difference between him being straight-laced and her just letting him have it.
Yeah.
And I think we have a clip of that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, let's play it.
(2:15 p.m.) We had been advised to follow up on a theft at 88-23467 Magnolia Boulevard. At this time of day, it took us 20 minutes to get there. The complainant was the landlady, one Enid Borden. Some pagan cards had been found.
What the hell are you on?
Police officers, ma'am.
About time you pencil dick showed up. Why couldn't you have got here before that big, bad, stupid-looking piece of sewage breath stole my white wedding dress?
Miss Borden, sewage breath would be your little nickname for...
Muzz. Emil Muzz.
Not much of an improvement.
That asswipe also stiffed me for 2 months' rent when his deposit check bounced. Goddamn puss-faced little pimp stick. All that was left in his room was a big box of these things.
Any idea where this Emil Muzz could be right now? Friends, family?
Nah, he was a loner. Took off in the middle of the night. Useless scum-lapping shitbag.
Just the facts, ma'am. He leave anything else behind?
Yeah, tape deck, which I had to sell to make up for the lost rent, so there's nothing you can do about it, you slimy little jizz bucket.
Yes, ma'am, although I should point out to you that technically you could be cited for swearing at us like that.
Says who, flathead?
It says the California Penal Code, Section 314.1, covering obscene live conduct in public. Good enough for you, lady?
Them magazines and papers were his down in the trash. No checks or money, I looked. I should have thrown it all in the river the day he left, but unlike some people, I have a heart, God damn it. That miserable little bag of puke.
I think we're finished here, don't you, Detective Streebeck?
I love that.
Just amazing.
This was one of the most rewound scenes.
Yeah.
When we watched this as a kid.
Yeah.
We just loved the fact she was just swearing at him. Although I had no idea what a jizz bucket was when I was 8, but still it sounded funny.
Yeah.
But my God, she just
it's just so great.
So great.
But it's just, I mean, if you just go and watch it, you can watch the scene on YouTube. Just her face.
she's just,
oh my gosh,
she's
so
just haggard. She's just like
Yeah.
not having it.
yeah,
And just the fact that they kind of reference like the description of big, bad, stupid looking when they see Emil Muzz and they go, an exact match. I
Yeah.
love that little tie. But yeah, so great cast all around.
Yep.
Lots of really funny players. Makes for a great comedy.
absolutely.
So let's briefly touch on the music of the
Okay.
film. So
Yeah.
the opening theme was reworked. We didn't get to play some of that reworked part, the remix kind of electronic beat
I know who
stuff.
it was.
Who was
It's
it?
The Art of Noise.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
The Art of Noise reworked the theme, and they kind of inserted some of the key phrases like "Just the facts, ma'am," and "This is the city."
I'm not a fan.
No, a lot of people aren't.
Yeah. I
We'll talk about two famous people who really aren't fans later on.
And I love The Art of Noise, as
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, wasn't really a fan. I didn't really like the use of the samples, but
It's fine. I think we fast forwarded through it because it was just a long intro.
yeah.
But it's fine. Again, I don't really have a problem with it, but I can see why it's
Yeah.
not everybody's cup of tea. So there's a song in the strip club scene.
Yeah.
The strip club scene. You know you're in a comedy when you hear the word strip club scene. There's a song by Patti LaBelle called Just the Facts. And what's great is when Patti LaBelle sings Just the Facts, the stripper's head goes through her legs, and Joe Friday looks up at her and goes, "Ma'am." So it goes Just the Facts, ma'am.
I see. I never even noticed that.
You
I gotta
didn't
go.
notice that?
No.
Although that took me years to kind of get that.
I don't know.
It
Maybe I was distracted.
I mean, tits. I get it. So, and then you have the end song.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that later.
Yeah.
What a treat.
We'll tease City of Crime a little bit. We'll talk about that a little later. Okay. So, this movie is full of what we call magic moments.
Magic moments.
This was hard. It was hard to pick. It was hard to not do
You picked all
the
of-
whole movie
The
as magic
whole
moments, and I feel like there are probably more magic moments than we've done for any movie. It was really difficult.
That's
but
okay.
We'll
We can
try
plan.
and be as succinct as possible and not drag this on for 2 hours. But the first magic moment we're going to talk about is when Friday and Streebeck go to investigate the pagan robberies at the Griffith Park Zoo.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So the pagans,
Brilliant.
in planning this giant ritual big gathering, have stolen some animals. And
Do you want to mention what pagan stands for?
People against goodness and normalcy.
There you go.
That is how Joe Friday actually says it as he reads it on a giant screen at the gathering. So they've stolen some animals, and what's really funny about this is Joe Friday and Pep Streebeck kind of disagreeing about zoos to start with, and then really, learning about these animals, and again, just jokes galore. So let's play it.
You know, Streebeck, these animals have it pretty good. Simulated surroundings, 3 squares a day. I'll bet if these creatures could talk, they'd give the citizens of this city a big vote of thanks.
Friday, these animals were trapped and stunned and roped and crated and shipped, dropped into cages. You think they were out in the wild forming lines, jockeying for position, saying, take me, I want to live on damn cement?
Well, let's just say when I look in their eyes, mister, I get a different message, and we'll leave it at that.
Are you gentlemen the police?
Ma'am, Friday, Streebeck, robbery. You have some pagan cards for us, do you?
Yeah. 3 of them, left in separate cages. Let me show you where I found them.
This is Ben, our boa constrictor. Now, the missing giant anaconda was still here last night at 8:30. I know because that's when it gets its final feeding. Well, actually, it's not always its final feeding. Sometimes it hides a little snack for later.
Just the facts, if you don't mind, ma'am. What exactly does the central Bolivian anaconda choose to feed on?
It eats whole live groundhogs.
Well, you skipped breakfast this morning, did you, Friday?
Whoever stole it's got to feed it, bub.
We also seem to be missing one of these.
Uh-huh. Ma'am, what is the approximate dry weight of the average Madagascar fruit tree bat?
You mean you don't know?
Now, this is the one I understand the least.
Somebody must have wanted that lion's mane pretty bad to pull a twisted stunt like that.
Although, as mohawks go, it's not that bad. It'll grow back.
Yeah, and how do you tell that to these kids here who've never seen a lion before and now probably won't have the desire to ever see one again?
Kids, it'll grow back.
Yay!
That mohawk on
good.
that lion.
Yeah, it's so good.
So great. This was another rewound moment for us. The mohawk lion and the kids that'll grow back. I mean, what can I say? It's just...
Another Just the Facts in there as well.
Yes, another Just the Facts little in there. And another sting of pagan cards.
Yeah.
Every time they hand, the police pagan cards, dun, dun, dun. But, yeah, just a really funny scene, especially the disagreement about zoos at the start. Just, I want to live on damp cement.
Yeah, damp cement.
Yeah.
And the kids saying yay at the end. It's just so random.
I know. I love it. Okay, so our next magic moment, I'm laughing already because I know what it is. It's probably the most famous line in the film. Okay.
The line.
Yes, the line.
Yeah.
The line that we use all the time.
Yeah, so basically, so what do you want to do? Do you want to talk about it first, or do you want me to play the line?
I'm going to lead up to it because, setting up the scene, Joe Friday and Pep Streebeck have been told to go to the mansion of Jerry Caesar, who is the porn magnate.
So it's like the Playboy Mansion.
Yeah,
really.
to go to the Playboy Mansion. So he's got some magazines that were stolen, like anniversary issues of Bait, his Playboy version, alongside Field and Cream. Don't forget Field and Cream. Sorry. Oh my
so
God.
Great.
So they're rolling up to Jerry Caesar's mansion, and they push a button at the front gate to be let in, and this is what they hear.
Oh, thank God. Vibrator repair.
No, ma'am. Los Angeles Police Department. Sorry.
So there's no. So that's what I was talking about. That's what I was talking about when I say that we use that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you turn and you go, oh, thank God, I'll go, what? Vibrator repair.
It just naturally works.
It's so great.
There are a lot of really funny jokes in this whole scene, like this whole setup at Jerry Caesar's mansion.
Yeah.
So, obviously Streebeck is drooling over all the bait mates.
Right.
He even knows some of them by name from previous issues.
I'm sure he's a subscriber.
He's a subscriber.
Yeah.
He definitely knows. Like, he knew who Sylvia Wyss was.
Yeah.
He knew who April was.
Yeah, and he knows their turn-ons and turn-offs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and one of April's turn-ons, her favorite movie is The Sound of Music, which stars Christopher Plummer. Ha ha ha. She likes to go bobbing for apples, and she doesn't like men who smoke in public places, and she removes Friday's cigarette. But what's really funny is the whole thing with Sylvia Wyss. So Sylvia Wyss is like the original bait mate. Mm-hmm. She's kind of like the Marilyn Monroe of Playboy. She's the OG, and she hits hard on Joe Friday. It's clear she wants to take him off and take his particulars, and he just doesn't fall. He's just like
he's just not getting it.
No,
he just doesn't click. And Streebeck knows exactly what's going on.
I think I left my notebook in the car, so I'm going to go get that for like an hour, and then you can probe Sylvia Wyss for questioning and whatever, and I think you just pump her for questioning. Anyway, and then Streebeck, Friday's just like, all right, Streebeck, let's go find that notebook. I'm like, oh my God. So I should point out at the start of the movie what's a kind of little funny gag that they do. So like the Dragnet TV series, they have, what you are about to see is true. Names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Yeah.
They say, for example, George Baker is now called Sylvia Wyss. if you think about that scene in terms of somebody named George Baker, it just like, what?
Yeah, right.
So I just found that really funny that when Sylvia West actually turns up, you think about that thing at the start and you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. But anyway, our magic moment, our next one is going to be the interaction that the cops have with Jerry Caesar. So Jerry Caesar's laid out on a deck, on a beach chair with two lovely ladies.
He's bronzed up.
Yeah, he's bronzed up. He's in his robe. He's got one lady on one side, one lady on the other, and bikinis, and they're both making eyes at Streebeck. And he explains what, who the Pagans are, what they've, why they've stolen his magazines, and, has a funny little exchange with Friday, because Friday is clean cut and doesn't watch porn, apparently, doesn't subscribe to bait. So it's this really kind of, funny exchange. So let's listen.
Yeah, it's about time. I called you cops 3 hours ago.
Yes, sir. My name's Friday. This is Detective Streebeck. Could you please describe what's missing?
Well, how about the entire run? That's every single copy of our 25th anniversary double issue of Bait.
Bait.
Yeah, it's his skin magazine.
You say. The intelligent subscriber regards it as a politically oriented, socially impacting monthly. I'm not going to allow a gang of cement heads to intimidate me just because I refuse to publish their stupid manifesto.
Would you care to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, here, read it for yourself.
Manifesto of the International Brotherhood of Pagans. We believe that bad sex and good drugs are the cornerstones of a great democracy. The peak of pornography...
I think we get the general idea, Streebeck.
My publishing company is not a private platform for any bunch of yahoos that just come along. I don't care how many copies they buy. Just because they got First Amendment rights, that doesn't mean I have to publish their junk. I've got First Amendment rights, too. Look them up, Friday.
I don't have to look them up, mister. I can quote them to you. Anyhow, how much do you figure a monthly run of your magazine is worth?
Well, let's just say it's more money than you'll ever see in your life. And I do that every month.
At least my money's clean.
I'll tell you what you do, Friday, before you go home and start polishing your pennies. Why don't you go out there and get my magazines back on the stand where they belong?
Listen, hotshot, I'm going to tell you something right now. I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out. But until they change the laws to put you sleaze kings out of business, my job's to help you get back your stench-ridden boxes of smut. And since I'm going to be doing it holding my nose, I'll be doing it with one hand.
Doing it with one hand.
As Joe Friday finishes his tirade, one of the bait mates sitting next to Jerry Caesar just kind of like laughs, just like, and I think that, it's just another thing of how square he is. And I love the way he says magazine, as if like it's, he's looking down on everything. And I love just, this really highlights Dabney Coleman's characterization of Jerry Caesar.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Just the stupid manifesto.
The issue.
The issue. Get my... Before you go home and polishing your pennies. It's just...
so great.
It's just really funny. I mean, yeah. Setting up a great... It also sets up the pagan plot. Mm-hmm. So the pagans are this organization. They want to take over the city. They want to turn L.A. into a cesspool, I guess, with drugs and sex and... goat leggings, I guess. So, yeah, it's pretty good. So the pagan plot is starting to thicken now. And in our next clip is where Joe and Pep go to investigate a pagan rally. So they've had some cop cars stolen. There's probably some dirty people in the city. They've got to investigate what's going on here. So... Pep Streebeck has Emil Muzz's pagan ID. Yeah. I guess. And so he's pretending to be Emil Muzz, and they're dressed rather comically. I mean...
like mohawks and
makeup and, well, that's just Joe. Joe has a mohawk and makeup and like leather jacket and everything like that.
And Pep has a fake mustache.
He's got a fake mustache and a hairnet. Yeah. He's just looking kind of...
He's wearing a hairnet.
Looking a little bit greasy. Yeah. But so they've gone undercover and they're going to investigate the pagan rally, and on the way, they get stopped by the police. So let's listen.
Yeah, it's right up here. It's just off Highway 61.
Yeah, probably some rat hole roadhouse where they sit around watching TV and suck beers all day. Uh-oh. Highway patrol. And they're pulling us over.
License and registration?
What was the offense, officer?
It's okay, Floyd. They're pagans.
Yeah?
Yeah. Show him your card. Muzz, Emil.
Yeah, that's right. That's me. Muzz, Emil Muzz. I've been sick.
Sorry to bother you, fellas. We can't be too careful, though, huh? We don't want any non-pagans around here, especially tonight. Right? Huh?
Follow us, fellas. The party's just starting.
Bogus cops. No matter how many times I see that little maneuver, it never ceases to disgust me.
You mean people dressing up in strange clothes, pretending to be who they're not?
Exactly. That kind of behavior. Just get out that list of stolen black and whites.
I think Tom Hanks is just so good in this scene.
That laugh.
That's full commitment right there.
And you could see Joe Friday's trying to laugh a lot, about as much as he can. But man, that at the end. Oh,
so good.
God. I just can't with Tom Hanks. He kills me in this movie. That's why this is one of my comfort blankets, because it's parts like that. I know they're coming. I've seen them a million times. But God damn, just so funny. So, in a continuation of that scene, our next magic moment is a quick little clip of them actually pulling up to the pagan rally. And Tom Hanks is continuing his antics as Emil Muzz. Let's play it.
Howdy, I'm Emil Muzz, and I'm a pagan.
Just the laugh.
I feel like he has so much
He's
fun.
out of control.
I feel like he just really enjoyed this. And
I feel like everybody on this movie had a great time because they're all just so good.
Yeah, everybody's just really top notch. I mean, just, oh, God. Anyway, the pagan rally has tons of other funny moments. You know, don't forget your goat leggings. And
the goat leggings are so great.
And obviously, you know, the rescuing of Connie Swale from the pit of acid. The anaconda.
Yeah, anacondas, yeah.
And, you know, with this lion's mane, I do consecrate. You know, Reverend Worley is on top of a hill in like a goat mask.
A little bit like Mola Ram in Temple of Doom.
Yes. And speaking in like, you know, ancient language in some parts. And it just feels a little bit devil worshipy. It feels a little bit metal. It feels a little bit culty, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Friday and Streebeck make their escape, but they're now in, you know, they're in the spotlight, and, you know, pagans are zeroing in on them and things like that. But as a different subplot, this is where Joe Friday meets Connie Swale, the Virgin Connie Swale. They keep calling her. He keeps referring to her, you know, as Joe Friday does these little reports throughout the movie, these little voiceovers. They're always like, you know, I picked up the Virgin Connie Swale.
Yeah.
And when he introduces, you know, her to his grandmother, this is the Virgin Connie Swale.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my God. Oh, it's so silly. But our next clip is going to be when Pep Streebeck decides to
follow Joe.
Yes.
Yes.
So they separate for the evening. Joe never has plans, really. So this is the first time that Streebeck's like, oh, you've got somewhere to go? He's like, I don't want to know. I don't care. And then he's like, yeah, I do. And he gets on his bike and he races down the street after Joe, and he rolls up on this house, and he thinks he's got Joe Friday figured out, and that's going to be our next magic moment. Let's play it.
I knew it. It's Nightmare on Elm Street. And that would make him Freddy Krueger. We're gonna be driving along some night, and the lighting's gonna be bad, and he's gonna mistake me for some pretty little co-ed, and out comes that claw, and... 170 pounds of ground chuck. Who knows what kind of thrill-seeking hose monster he's got stashed in there. My God, he's dating Mother Goose. Hey, Joe!
Streebeck, what are you doing here?
Joe, who is this nice-looking young man?
He's nobody. My partner. Streebeck, introduce yourself to my grandmother. Quickly.
Well, what a pleasant surprise. Granny Friday.
Not that it's any of your business. She's my maternal grandmother. Her name is Mundy.
Why don't we all discuss this over dinner? It's my birthday. We're going to the Brown Derby. Do join us, Detective Streebeck.
Streebeck. Pep. Granny, I don't think it's such a good idea.
Why not, Joe?
Yeah, Joe, why not?
Yes, well, it's just that I've invited someone already to join us, and you don't really know her. She's a...
Her? Joe, you have a date? Oh, I'm so proud.
Well, in that case, it looks like I have a date, too. Granny Mundy, may I escort you to Joe's car?
I'd be privileged, Detective Star Trek.
She can't get
Detective Star Trek.
She can't get his name right. She calls him Swayback and then Star Trek. Oh, Granny Mundy's so cute. Yeah, this is great because the whole Pep Streebeck imagining Nightmare on Elm Street and the way that he does
Tom Hanks claw on the face,
drags his claw across his face, and that.
Yeah,
it's perfect. I mean, and they of course go to the Brown Derby, and Pep Streebeck orders the most expensive champagne, and I love this one scene where he takes a sip of the champagne. He just looks at Friday and goes, so good. But it's really cute. It really shows how charming Pep Streebeck is because he just immediately is like, well, I'm gonna put Granny on my arm,
right?
And later on he takes her on his motorcycle, and it's just really, really good. But this also brings up the fact that Joe Friday doesn't date much, if at all. I mean, Granny Mundy's like shocked.
You having a date,
so
Joe?
Proud, It's almost like, so we talk about the Virgin Connie Swale. Is Joe Friday a virgin?
I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like he's not, because he's had some weird experience in his past, I feel like. But it's clear that he doesn't prioritize dating and women. Right. He's all about the job. He's all about his, watching the programming with Jonathan Worley. He's all about keeping that clean cut lifestyle. And when you invite women into it, even when he witnesses Pep with other women, like when Pep is dating other officers, other female officers on the force, and he rolls up to pick up Streebeck, and Streebeck is at the house of or one of their female partners comes to the door wearing just a t-shirt and Streebeck's in handcuffs. They're playing good cop, bad cop. It's just, he just seems to be like, oh, whatever. It's obvious Pep's having a lot of fun. But, so when they're at the Brown Derby for Granny Mundy's birthday, they happen to spot Jonathan Worley at the table at another table with Commissioner Kirkpatrick and Captain Gannon. because obviously, you know, the commissioner and Jonathan Worley are friends, and Connie Swell freaks out because she recognizes his face from
the kidnapping.
When she threw off the goat mask at the pagan rally. And, you know, up until that point, they hadn't been able to figure out, you know, who the perpetrator was. And she, you know, she's like, that's him. And she starts crying. And so Joe Friday's like, right, I've had enough. And, you know, Streebeck tries to talk him out of it. He's like, that is Jonathan Worley. He is like the leader of the moral advance movement in America. He is, you know, he's a local hero. And you go over there and with our boss and the commissioner, you know, it's not going to be good. But Friday like throws his napkin down and he proceeds to go into the men's restroom where Jonathan Worley is about to take his place in a stall and proceeds to arrest him. And that's going to be our next magic moment. Here's that clip.
Oh, I am sorry.
Hold it right there, Worley. Police officer, you're under arrest.
I beg your pardon. What is this, some sort of a feeble joke?
No, it's a real knee slapper, friend. If you consider California Penal Code sections 484, 207A, 597, and 217 theft, kidnapping, cruelty to animals, and attempted murder something to laugh about.
I haven't the slightest idea what you're talking about.
My partner and I witnessed that little Torch Lake picnic you threw last night, and we're going to put you where your kind always ends up. In a 7-by-7-foot gray-green metal cage on the 15th floor of some 100-year-old penitentiary with damn stinking walls and a wooden plank for a bed. Sure, this city isn't perfect. We need a smut-free life for all of our citizens. Cleaner streets, better schools, a good hockey team. But the big difference between you and me, mister, is you made the promise, and I'm going to keep it.
So that sound you hear right there is him putting a coin
That's Friday
in
tipping the attendant in the restroom.
Yeah.
And who proceeds to clap louder after getting that tip. There's a lot going on in this scene. While he's reading him his rights and, you know, making his speech, Reverend Worley's sitting on the toilet with his pants around his ankles. So it's so funny. Like, everyone in the restaurant turns around and stares at Friday as he delivers this eulogy, you know, just kind of this monologue about, you know, his duty and, you know, I'm going to put you where you belong and everything like that. You can kind of start to sense that anger building in Friday because he's falling in love with Connie. But even in that little anger and that little kind of spark of, you know, rebellion, he's still straight-laced and he's still delivering his codes.
Yeah, his penal codes.
And everything. He's speaking with such a cadence. And this is a great speech. And it's just, oh, God. Mwah, chef's kiss. So our next magic moment, I actually wanted to highlight a little bit of Elizabeth Ashley's character, Commissioner Kirkpatrick. I love the way that she just kind of busts their balls, but this is a key scene because this is where Joe Friday takes it too far. And in the eyes of Commissioner Kirkpatrick, who's dirty, and, you know, is arresting Reverend Worley. This is where there's an appearance of pseudohalogenic compound cyanogen, so listen out for that as Friday, you know, lists off these different things of reasons of why he's arresting Worley. But I love the fact that I just love her, the way she goes, no! And it's just a great scene for me, but it's kind of where the table turns a little bit in the story. This is where the real conflict happens, so let's listen.
Our good Reverend's an amazing piece of work, isn't he, Jane? May I call you Jane?
No.
Captain, Commissioner, I demand an immediate explanation for this outrageous behavior.
It's him again. Are you insane?
Commissioner, the Reverend Worley abducted that girl over there, had his men throw her into a pit filled with criminally polluted water and a giant Bolivian jungle snake.
Oh, Jane, these accusations are preposterous.
I beg to differ, ma'am. Just ask him if he remembers about 3,000 gallons of stolen trichloronitromethane and the pseudohalogenic compound cyanogen, which, when mixed properly, form a liquid fertilizer that burns the throat, the eyes, the lungs, the nose, and could cause vomiting and even death.
Friday, we're just about to eat here.
Reverend Worley, please accept our most sincere apologies. Sergeant, you will remove those handcuffs immediately. Then you will hand in your badge. You are relieved from duty.
But But Commissioner.
Now!
Yes, sir. Ma'am.
So at the start of that scene, where Captain Gannon says, "Oh, the Reverend's great. May I call you Jane?" And she goes, "No." So that's a little tie-in to an earlier moment in the movie where she's interviewing Reverend Worley on TV, and he says, "Commissioner," and she's like, "Oh, please, will you call me Jane?"
Oh, okay.
And he goes, "Only if you call me Jonathan."
I remember now.
Yeah.
I remember the laugh, yeah.
The sleazy. Yeah. So obviously Captain Gannon is not good enough to call her Jane, but Reverend Worley is. So it's just, it's leading into Joe Friday kind of rebelling against.
Well, yeah, he's not a cop anymore.
He's not a cop anymore,
Yeah, 'cause
so
he had to turn in his badge.
everything he believes in, everything that he follows, all of the codes and everything like that, if he's going to save Connie, if he's going to prevent Reverend Worley from, completing his dastardly plan, and part of the dastardly plan is at this anniversary party for Bait magazine, is to set the mansion on fire. To have the pagans set the mansion on fire so that the center of smut and the center of city politics, the mayor, are killed in the fire. So it's all part of their plot to take control of the city. And it's just, this next magic moment is where Streebeck is having an honest conversation with Friday, because Friday obviously wants to continue as he's going along. He's been kidnapped. Him and Connie were kidnapped. Their car was turned upside down by Emil Muzz. They're in like this little Yugo, which was like the last car that they could get from the police station because all their cars had been stolen or blown up. And so they've been kidnapped and taken to the Griffin Observatory. Griffith Observatory, sorry.
That's all right.
And, tied up, and Reverend Worley runs off with Connie. He plans on taking her wherever he's going, Mexico, wherever. And Friday wants to, continue to pursue him. And he struggles because he can't. He's not legally allowed to. So when they get to the mansion, when they get to Jerry Caesar's mansion where this party is going down, they're looking for Connie. They're waiting for Reverend Worley to come in. And they're in the bushes. And Streebeck has to kind of set Friday in line for once. And they have this is kind of where their friendship, I think, starts to bloom a little bit. Because Pep is showing, real, sympathy for Friday's situation, but he's also like, I'm gonna take care of this. And Streebeck actually ends up, continuing to chase the pagans and figure out what the plot is. But this is a really nice conversation, and it shows Friday's character development because he's wanting to rebel against everything he's ever known. So let's listen.
Look, there's the mayor. Pretty clever of Worley maneuvering him up here to Caesar's party. Now he's got both people he wants to eliminate in one place.
Hey, isn't that Worley's car?
Good evening, Reverend.
Child? I don't see Connie. All right, the next car comes. Follow me in.
Wait, you can't go in there.
And since when did you become Miss Manners?
In the first place, you don't have a warrant.
California Penal Code, Section 836. A police officer may make an arrest without a warrant if he believes there is probable cause to believe
You're not
that
a police officer anymore, Joe.
I hate to be the one to break that to you, but it's the truth. You go charging in there now, you're never going to get your badge back.
Worley's the only one that knows where Connie is. And he's going to tell me, or I'll shove that collar so far down his throat, I'll have to take off his shoes to wring his neck.
Will you listen to yourself? You're not even thinking like a cop anymore. You're thinking like a man in love.
You just watch your language, mister.
Oh, Joe, you've never really had these feelings before, have you?
Almost. I had a kitten once.
Yeah, this is going to be a little different. See, Connie is not going to be sleeping in a box or meowing all night or climbing up your drapes. Or Maybe she will. I don't know. You both are sort of starting from scratch with this thing.
Get out of my way.
Hey. Last time you went after Worley, you got suspended. You go in there now, you're going to get arrested.
On what charge, Junior?
How about Section 146A? That's right. Impersonating a police officer. It's for your own good, Joe.
Uh-huh.
You know, in spite of every logical instinct I've ever had in my life, I consider you a friend. A real friend.
Can you see how Pep Streebeck is starting to adopt some of Friday's mannerisms?
Yeah.
Some of his speech patterns, and
yeah,
he knew the code.
Hey.
Yeah, but he knew the code off the top of his head. There's a scene where a voiceover is delivered by Streebeck after Friday goes missing. Now he's still got the Streebeck jokes and stuff like that, but he's delivering it like Friday, giving the date and the time and everything like that.
Yeah.
And he's starting to, as Friday is starting to rebel against his nature, so Streebeck, in a way, by sort of becoming that straight man. And they have a really funny scene with a car chase. So early on in the film, they have a car chase, and Streebeck is driving wild, chasing after Emil Muzz in his limo, and they're driving on the beach and in the water.
Oh, yeah.
Knocking over a lifeguard stand and driving through all these stuffed animals. And, all the while, Friday's like citing him on all the things that he would ticket him for and, telling him to slow down and all this stuff. And later on in the movie, as they're chasing Reverend Worley to the airport, where he's going to take off and kidnap Connie Swale to wherever he's going. And Friday is now driving, and he's speeding, and he's running red lights, and he's scaring Streebeck a little bit,
So the tables have turned.
Yeah, and what's really funny is, like, there's a part of where, Friday's driving and Streebeck goes like, oh, did you ever see those films that we watched, Death on the Highway, when we were taking driver's ed? And Friday's like, you just named two of my favorites, or something like that. So Friday's completely turned. He's a man in love, and love has taken him to rebellion. So, all in all, there's a big chase. There's a fighter jet, which someone pointed out online. I think this was on IMDb. They said no police department has a tank or a fighter jet, but for some reason they do in this movie.
Of course they do.
So,
yeah,
that's what that $20 million was spent on, that fighter jet. So they have this great like fighter jet scene where, they pull over next to Reverend Worley's plane, and, Friday like points, tell him to pull over, as in land, so that they can arrest him, and all is right, and Joe and Connie are in love, and we get to our last magic moment, and this is the payoff that you were talking about of the romantic plot.
So the joke, that joke that runs up through the whole movie, the Virgin Connie Swale,
and now it's going to come full circle. Let's listen.
Late night last night, partner? I thought the Christian Science reading room closed at 10.
Not that it's any of your business, Mr. National Enquirer, but I had the pleasure of spending a quiet evening in the company of Connie Swale.
Wait a minute. Connie Swale? Don't you mean the Virgin Connie Swale?
Oh my God. That must be the end of the movie. That is the end of the movie.
So that's a real visual joke. It doesn't really work that well with audio, because, when he says, oh, don't you mean the Virgin Connie Swale? Like, Joe turns around to him and just, like, raises an eyebrow.
Gives him a little smirk.
Yeah.
As if to say, not anymore.
Yeah, and then Streebeck kind of recoils, like,
He's like, can't believe it.
Yeah.
It actually happened. You're human after all. So that is the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going into the end credits.
Mm-hmm.
City of Crime. City of Crime is Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks rapping?
Yeah.
Is it with the Fat Boys? Is that who's...
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not great.
No, it's not.
It's kind of iconically bad. It's kind of, it can be fun in a bad way. But they're basically like, we'll go down to the station and we'll have some refreshments.
People can make up their own mind because we're going to play some of it in a little bit.
Yeah,
on the way
so
out.
we will close out the episode with a bit of City of Crime so you can hear the badness.
And you can feel free to rewind and listen to it as many times as you want.
I don't think you'll want to do that. It's not great. But the movie is great.
Yes, it is.
The movie is so funny, and I'm so glad that we got to talk about it. But before we go, we're going to talk about, as we do with every deep dive episode, we're going to see what our two favorite film critics, Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, thought of Dragnet when it was originally released in 1987. So here's a clip from their original review.
I enjoyed Dragnet, though, most of all because of Dan Aykroyd. It was very much like one of his classic Saturday Night Live impersonations, Richard Nixon or talk show host Tom Snyder, comedy bits that I wish back then had lasted a couple of hours. Well, now we've got a whole movie that does, and I think it's Dan Aykroyd that makes Dragnet one of the summer's great delights.
Well, Aykroyd is great in the movie, but I think you're being almost too hard on the others by omission. It's a good cast. There are a lot of good moments in this movie, a lot of great supporting performances, and some great scenes, including that pagan rite that they eavesdrop on, with all the people dancing around with the thigh-high goat skins. That was a great scene.
Funny, but I like the one where he meets the old lady who was a foul mouth.
That was a great
Unbelievable.
scene. Now, I have two criticisms of this movie based upon the style of the movie. First of all, Dragnet always had the alternating one-shot close-up.
Right.
Where they have the staccato dialogue. What do you mean by that? You know what I mean. What's that? Oh, They don't do it here.
Right.
They make the mistake of having them over-the-shoulder close-ups, misses the whole point. It seems like a small one, but it's a big one. And the second thing, where did they get that crummy, crappy music in the beginning title and at the end? The disco-rap music video clone.
You know where that
junk.
comes from?
They should have used the Dragnet theme. At the end of the movie, I was hungering. I wanted to hear that da-da-da-da. I walked out of the theater singing it to myself because I wanted it so badly.
Well, the sad fact is that they didn't have enough confidence in the material that they had to try and hook kids in with some disco thing. They have got a great movie there. Dan Aykroyd, I'm going to go back to the main point, which is he is so great in this film. This is the kind of work that does not get Academy Award nominations. It should get one.
It is a good movie. They should go back and throw away all of that music that's going to be their hit single or something. Put in the Dragnet theme. It needs it. It would have been. That little, it might seem like a small thing. It would have helped the movie.
It's a legitimate complaint, but on a positive note, which is nominate Aykroyd for an Oscar.
Okay, positive note. Here we
both got big laughs from Dan Aykroyd as Detective Joe Friday in Dragnet. 2 thumbs up.
So leave it to Roger Ebert to have a problem with the new music and to get the kids involved, because he's just like, oh, this movie's funny on its own. Why did you have to have the rap outro and the funky intro? Why did you have to mess with the music? I'm like,
well, stuff moves on, doesn't it? Yeah.
It was the 80s.
But I still feel the movie still has kind of an old soul vibe.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's from a TV show from another time.
Agreed.
But it's updated for the 80s.
Yeah.
I say updated for the 80s. Gosh, that was 40 years ago.
I know, right?
But they both loved it. They gave it 2 thumbs up. And I agree that Gene Siskel, they don't award, Oscar nominations for comedy roles like this, but he really liked Dan Aykroyd. He loved the way that he impersonated Jack Webb.
Yeah.
And thought he was Oscar worthy, and I was like, well,
that's right. I mean,
I think Tom Hanks is Oscar worthy.
I mean, I don't really care about the Oscars, but you're right. They do not really give nominations for comedy roles, and they should.
Those 2 at the top of this movie give what I think are flawless performances. They don't waver at all. They know who their characters are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Dan Aykroyd got to study someone to get a characterization.
But Pep,
Pep, that's why I said it's so natural. That's why I said that it's just effortless, the way that he rolls these jokes in. It's just, the timing is perfect. They are a perfect comedy duo and a great team. And I love their performances, and I'm glad that Siskel and Ebert liked it too. I don't know what this 50% on Rotten Tomatoes is all about. Get with it, people.
But you know what? In this era of reboots and remakes, you know what? We might get Dragnet too.
Do not touch this movie. If anybody remakes this movie...
Hey, we just got a second Beetlejuice.
Okay, yeah, 37 years later. But anyway,
right?
No. Don't touch this movie.
No.
This movie it's a little time capsule of the 80s.
I agree.
It still works. It's still funny. It does not need to be remade.
Right.
And I don't think it will be, honestly, because I don't think it has.
Well, what do you think about a reboot, though, with old Joe and old Pep?
Touch this movie. No. Dan Aykroyd now. No. Look, Dan Aykroyd is covered for reboots with Ghostbusters.
I know.
But no. Don't touch this movie. Tom Hanks is a serious actor now. He's a serious actor. No. For God's sake, please. Anyone, do not remake this movie.
But
I want to enjoy it as it is for the rest of my life.
But it's a great movie, and I really enjoyed talking about it. I don't think I had much to add to the conversation, but
no, I think you did. You've seen it, you know.
I have seen it, just not as much as you.
We joke about not as many times as I have, clearly. But look, it's just funny. I love talking about funny movies because they're so joyful, and this movie gives me a lot of joy.
That's good.
So, anyway, thank you for joining us. Hopefully you've enjoyed it too. And if you want to find us online, you can look us up on Instagram at FAVEFILM Podcast. We have an email address, favefilmpodcast@gmail.com.
We have a website,
favefilmpodcast.com. Hopefully you found us, you know, through one of your podcast services. But we will be back next week with another episode of FAVEFILM Weekly. It's our weekly show that we do. We didn't have one this week because we recorded this big, you know, deep dive episode. But we like to talk about the movie news of the week, talk about some of the things that we've seen, and just kind of give an overview of what's going on in film. So check that out next week and on the weekly.
Yeah. And then now we're gonna play out.
We're going to play out with City of Crime. Enjoy? ?
And we'll see you again soon.
Yep. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
This is the city. It's a city of crime. My name is Friday. I carry a badge. 3:15 a.m., Thursday, January 15th. It was chilly that morning in the City of Angels. On this particular occasion, we happened to witness a pagan ritual in progress. See that, Streebeck? We're just in time. We have stumbled into a major crime.
They got the girl all frightened. Now that's not nice. I think she is the subject of a sacrifice.
Buddy, we're putting this party on ice.
But first, you know, we really ought to read them their rights.
Read them their rights. Read them their rights.
Well, I'm here tonight to rap about your rights. Cause right now you're in trouble. Don't have to say nothing.